Hello, fellow Sublime Text fanatics. Welcome to Sublime Text Live, the very last one of 2021. We'll be resuming back in the new year. But if you watched yesterday's video, indeed, seems like it's tomorrow. I feel like I fell asleep on the couch earlier after the day that I had. You'll know that for the remainder of 2021 in December, we're not going to be doing any live streams here on YouTube. Not to worry. They will come back in the new year, and that's because Devember is coming. And I've decided that I'm going to try, once again, I've tried this a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now, I can't remember, to do a live stream every single day. But I'm going to do that on my Twitch channel, not here. Because I'd like to keep YouTube more for doing things that are in support of the channel and the community that we've built here. And in that vein, to do 31 consecutive days of streaming, I don't want to hurt the channel by doing a bunch of stuff that most people that are watching the channel here might not actively care about. But if you do want to join in, you can. There should be a link down below me somewhere right now, twitch.tv/odatnerd. You can hop in there at any point and ask a question. Doesn't even have to be in December. Anytime you have a question about Sublime, if I'm live, you pop in and ask away, and I will help you. Hello, Ashwin. Welcome. Hope I didn't give you too much of a scare. We were just talking about plans. Now, I don't actually have. Hey, G-Bound, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. I don't actively have, as of yet, a actual plan for what the project is going to be. So we're quickly running out of time. I have a couple of ideas, but nothing that's specifically solidified as of yet. I'm trying to balance the fact that Twitch streams are sometimes as much talking as they are coding. So I either have to ignore chat, which I do not want to do, or sort of factor in that despite the fact that we're going to have 31 streams and there'll be a lot of time spent streaming, maybe not as much coding as if we were just doing it in isolation, which is not fun at all, realistically. So, hello, good morning, Abhishek. How you doing? Or sorry, good. I guess it would be morning for you because it's evening for me, if I remember correctly. So that's the plan. I will be streaming every single day during December, unless something terrible comes up or I get horribly sick, which is what happened the last time I tried this. It wasn't because I was streaming either. It's just luck of the draw. It was the first time I'd gotten sick in a while, and I actually started feeling better a lot quicker, but then it would have seemed, but I basically lost my ability to talk, which made live streams kind of lame. Advent of code. Hey, yeah, that's totally a thing too. Tomorrow, 30 days have September, April, June, and November. Doesn't it start on December 1st? Oh, wait, no, it's already December. It's already the 30th for you right now, right? Yeah. Timing. So anyway, that's the plan for stuff to do. And streams on Twitch, expect at the very least for them to be in the normal time slot, but I do conceivably, potentially, maybe have time off. I mean, I should have most of the month off, but various people at work are being jackholes, so we'll see what actively happens. And it also, depends on what my wife might require me to help out with, because she's taking on a lot of Christmas baking this year. But there could be some daytime streams as well. Possibly, maybe even a daytime stream and then a nighttime stream later. I don't know. Now, here's a question for you guys here. Do you think anybody here would be interested in if I had a playlist here on the channel and I uploaded Twitch VODs after Twitch streams were done? Not necessarily just in December, but in general. Something I've been pondering. It seems like most of the time when you do that, you want to give them a little bit of an edit. And in that case, I might not do that because that's going to be time, right? But I could totally dump files up here. Well, a little bit of editing, but not like a ton of cleanup type stuff. It's part of the reason why I always keep the chat visible on the screen if I can possibly help it. How can we copy files by dragging files from the file explorer to well, you don't copy files by doing that. you can only copy files from the File Explorer. Unless you have something open directly in Sublime, theoretically you could save as a file to get it to another location. Does File Manager have a copy operation? Let's find out. Let me push the correct button. Let's push it again. That's the one. Well, let's see. You can copy the name. You can duplicate a file. Yeah. If your question is, can you copy files from inside of here? The answer is no. This is for looking at files. It's not for manipulating them. If you want to manipulate the list of files or files on your file system, you use your File Manager for that. Ooh, exciting, Gbound. Theoretically, I should be off starting from the 8th of December all the way to the end of the month. But I got the 8th to the 15th booked off, and then my manager refused to book any more time because maybe I have some tasks that need to be done. And if that's the case, I'm losing out on potential contractual holiday time. And you can rest assured that I'm going to be very surly in meetings if I am forced to not take vacation time. So let's look at this question again. How can we copy files by dragging files from the File Explorer to Sublime Text Explorer or vice versa? This isn't an Explorer. The sidebar is just a list of files and folders that you have open. So the only thing that you can do in here is if you have multiple top-level folders open, you can drag and drop them to arrange in what order they appear in the sidebar. An example of that would be this. There are 3 things that are open here. If I was to edit the project, you can see those 3 things. If I was to move this one to the bottom, the project gets rewritten to reorder those. This is as close as you can get to moving things around inside of Sublime's sidebar. If you want to copy, manipulate files, and that sort of thing, you want to do that inside of your respective operating system's File Manager. You can, right-click on a thing and say, theoretically, open in Explorer, which will open that folder into the appropriate place to let you take operations. This will work on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. It just depends on which operating system you are, what program gets executed. And various packages may have some sort of file copy action, but that's about it. File Manager would be probably what I would recommend, but I don't think it does copying per se. That's just what we were looking at there. You can copy the name, you can duplicate a file, create a template, list some templates, etc. But copy a file from one place to another doesn't seem to be one of those things. Hope you're planning something cool, Gbound. Are you gonna also do lots of streaming? Ow! Stop doing that, guy. I've had quite a day. Here's a moral question for you. If someone asks you for help doing something and you're very sure, reasonably sure, very sure, someone in that area that the person is being scammed, and you try to tell them that, but they refuse to believe you and still want your help doing the thing that is a scam. Do you help them? Do you refuse the help and make them go elsewhere? What do you think about that? You have on the one hand getting scammed and not believing it versus what? It's an interesting moral thing, I think. The desire to help could potentially get in the way of trying to do what's right, but if a person has free will to do a thing and they seem to know and recognize that the thing isn't a good thing, sort of a callback for stuff that happened earlier today. Oops. Well, in this particular case, you're basically in this scenario, you're essentially helping the scammer scam someone. But to put even more moral spin on it, you explain to the person who's being scammed the reasons why what's happening isn't legit and is a scam, and they refuse to believe verbally that this is actually happening, that it's a scam, this is real. But also, this story, whenever you ask for details about the situation, changes from telling to telling, because the theory would be if you tell someone that they're being scammed, and these are the reasons why I think that that's the case, but the person refuses to acknowledge that and says that it's on the up and up, but they seem to be consciously lying about details of what's going on, that sort of seems like a tacit admission that they do understand that they're being scammed, even though they're saying that it's not. It's a very weird situation. Uh, yeah, it is fishy, isn't it? In this particular case, because it's a friend, I yeah, I didn't know what else to do either. This was a friend from the building, no, acquaintance, I should say, not like a best friend or anything like that from the building that I live in. It seemed very obvious that what was happening was a scam. Everything screamed run away right now, but she refused to acknowledge that. And there was some other people that were involved in tech support from services that were being dealt with that also said the exact same thing. And they actually told me while I was on the phone with them trying to clarify what was going on that they had also provided similar advice and it went unheeded. So it really comes down to that whole refuse to help a person be scammed, even though you know that they're just going to keep trying until it eventually succeeds, and they are, or ease things. I don't know. It was a very trippy situation, shall we say. Uh, I was just curious what other people think of that. My wife and I have been sort of discussing it for the evening. All else being equal, the most the worst parts were how long the person was hanging around and getting in the way of stuff that was otherwise going on. Um, I lost the. Here we go. This is what we are looking for. Hang on a second while I make sure we don't get blinded here. Um, as a result of the fact that I'm trying to come up with the definitive coding task to carry out through December, should it be something game related? Should it be something programming related? Maybe we should work on getting a open sourced version of the bot done. Maybe we could work on the other stuff related to that, or game related stuff. Um, I've also been working on this bad boy here as well, because as I mentioned in my post, we hit 1,024 followers. Well, actually, we've exceeded it at this point on my Twitch channel. So on Friday, we're going to be doing a giveaway in Twitch. You don't have to be a subscriber or anything like that. You just have to hang out and have a good time. Apparently, I'm watching someone do some stuff. But this is what I have been working on for the last bit. And it is the stickers, part of the stickers, my contribution to the stickers that will be given away during the live stream. These are the standard ones that already exist, and also we'll be giving away sticker versions of all of the emotes that currently exist on the channel. Plus, with the blessings of Cryptid Cafe, the the Kentucky Fried Brains image that you may be familiar with from the Discord. In addition, there's going to be some other stuff. So I've been working on getting these ready to go into the store and for the giveaway, and coming up with a T-shirt design. Current idea is to give away 5 T-shirts. So that thing we were doing where we were working on whether or not maybe you might optionally win a shirt, that just might be a dedicated prize. We'll see. But I've been working on that. So when it comes to topics for this evening, I thought we could just take it easy and work through maybe a couple of problems that people are posting on the forum or Stack Overflow. Unless you have a question, if you have something that you'd like to see out of the stream, we can most certainly do that. But it's kind of a chill wind down to streams, if you will. Thus. Yeah, indeed. That G-Bound, that's exactly, what I said. Like she seemed to know exactly what was going on, but it was one of those, rose-colored glasses kind of things. I'm not making the shirt it's only a potential thing, but yeah, I'm sort of on the fence about that one. Best case scenario is that it's wrecked by my head, so it's not full on, but we'll see. That's one of the things that I need to work out in the next couple of days, along with the design. Certainly the shirts that I have, I would never sell those. That is not the thing. And these are giveaway things, so there is that as well. But believe me, that is one of the many thoughts that's been buzzing around in my head for the last couple of days. This preparation time is going very, very quickly, if we will. Who knows about Python and virtual environments? Because this question is, how can we use the shebang command in the Python code to direct the build system to point to the PyVen? I assume that's the Python virtual environment, so that I don't have to uncheck automatic to select PyVen from the build system every time. I assume this is an indication that PyVen is a package. We go to the package control and check. Nope. So that's not what's happening. Seems to me it would be fairly easy to create something like this. Do you presume that somebody that's using a shebang is doing it under macOS or Linux and not under Windows, where shebang isn't a thing? Or does Python support shebangs in some magic fashion? I am assuming the answer to that question is no. Fion, hello! If I could shout you out, I would. How are you doing? Instagram was being a gigantic turd and told me yesterday or the day before that you added something to your story for the first time. And then when I tapped on the notification, it opened the application on my profile and refused to show me what it was that you were doing. I hate it. When I hear shebang, I think of a very specific Unix-related thing. So let's play with an example thing here. We'll create a new window. How's your journey to being a programming expert going, Fion? You were doing something like that, weren't you? Split that up and go like so. Let's say we created a file. Well, let's say we loaded a file. What's in here? Nothing terrible, I hope. Okay, that's not something that's going to work. I shall do that. She's in bed right now, but I will. Oh, she's into crocheting. My mom tried several times when I was a kid to teach me how to crochet, and it failed every single time. Uh, if someone else started the stitch for me, I could keep it going, but I didn't know how to stop it. And anytime I tried to start it, it just kept rotating around the needle endlessly. It was a whole big thing. JavaScript will do that. Are you taking a are you taking a break from um, streaming as well? I've noticed a lot of the people that I follow on Twitch they've either decided not to stream anymore or they're taking the month off. Splashly, for example, said she's taking the month off. A couple of other people did. Coder Snacks decided that she's just gonna move on from something like that. If we had something like this, and we ran this, does it do anything? Oh, unhappy about that, huh? Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. It's unusual. User bin Python 3? Why is that unhappy? It's doing something as... She seemed like Splashly seemed like she is indeed gonna come back. Yeah. Yay for streaming in 2022. Splashly tweeted out today to say that she's taking the month off from streaming for mental health sanity reasons and the like. Yeah, that's the magic of what I'm thinking here. Although for some reason that did not do exactly what I would have thought it would have done. Oops. Normally I would do something like this. And then it's running in 3.8.3, but if I did that, then it's running in 2.7. So the question is, can you make a build system do that? And kind of have something like that in our scraps repository already. We're all about teaching stuff. This is Python and not JavaScript, though. The magic of this whole operation. Let's look at the, see there's a virtual env package. Manage your virtual environments directly from Sublime. The situation, well, if that's the case, this person's problem. Now, the issue that I have is anytime I do anything Python related, it's generally a plugin. Brain hurting stuff. Indeed. Oh, if I had custom emotes, that would totally be the thing. The situation, such as it is, let's see. How do you even create a virtual environment? Something like so. I can never remember. So this has created a virtual environment here. So if I say, what Python are we executing? We're executing user bin Python. But if we source bin activate, and then I say, which Python are we using? We're using this one. So the magic of the virtual environment is that it will allow you to install libraries for a particular project and a particular thing. Basically, a virtual environment is the Python equivalent of the node modules jackhole stuff that happens in JavaScript. You want to be able to have a package.json that specifies stuff and it's self-contained, because you want your one copy of the internet to not conflict with your other copy of the internet, with your hello world when it downloads its 950 gigabytes of package files. Same sort of situation going on here. In theoretically it should, but this is the issue with this thing, right? Because the Python build system, if we were to look at it, executes Python 3 specifically on a file. So you do need to have something that knows it should use a different Python. You stay safe too, Fion. Looking forward to hanging out again. And another karaoke stream? Guy can hope. We need to have the version of here. Look at this. Remove. Whoops. So this is the script that happens here. So now when we type Python, now I don't have multiple versions of this neither. So that's a whole other situation as well, isn't it? I messed that part up. If we say which Python, it's this one. So Python test.py is running that. And to really test this, I guess we would need to have uh-oh. That little loading emote. Well, I guess we can tell that Python is Python in this particular case, right? Let's do that again. Temp bob my vn. If I Python test.py, I get version 2 unless I activate the virtual environment, and then it's 3.83. So in order to make sure that it uses the correct Python, you do need to, I think, do something to at least tell it to use the appropriate thing, which I'm assuming is what, whoops. Oh, that's not cool at all. I'm assuming that's what this is doing. And this really seems like the answer to the question, doesn't it? This particular thing that was asking here was shebang to use new build system. In which case, I'm not even sure how you would set such a thing up. Whoops. Let's go out of that again. Contrived situation. That's using version 2. We need to copy that and shebang line. Is this the thing people do? I'm not sure if that allows it to, I assume it's smart enough to pick up appropriate packages that way. I'm not entirely sure. Does it change anything other than that? It only changes the path and nothing else? That's nice then. Yeah, same situation here. So which Python is telling me that one? I exit, I re-go back in. I should probably be smarter about how I do that. But for our purposes here, temp bob vm, right? My vm, pardon me. If I did Python test.py, we get that version, but if I make test.py executable, it ends up with the correct version because it's actively running it from the shebang. If that's a thing that works, then choosing exactly which Python to use for any given thing would be simple. You just have to make sure that your Python script points at the appropriate thing. But it really seems like you want something a little bit smarter, if that makes sense. You can install the virtual env package here. After it eventually winds things down. I hope everybody's Monday went a little better than mine. Boom. Only Sublime Text 3. Tested in Linux and Windows, but it should work in OS X as well. All right. Set your build system to Python plus virtual env. Search virtual env in the command palette. Preferences, package setting, virtual env, but do not modify the default settings. Oh, wow. I might be unhappy about this, huh? Wow, when was this created? Last modified 6 years ago. All right, well, that would explain some stuff then. That would explain some stuff. This is a very old package, but maybe it still works. Let's see. We want virtual env. Weird. What name did it install under? Why is that? That's weird. Oops. Very weird. Hello, Solomon May. Is that a de facto way to do something like that? And also, is that in a virtual environment or just in general? Because if I was doing something with a regular Python script, this is what I would do. Yeah, I would. For the few that I have created, I would make sure that there's a shebang line in there that points at probably user bin Python 3 or something so that I could just execute it. And that's just a convenience so that you can execute the Python script directly and you don't need to worry about that. But can we edit these? No. Assuming virtual env installed on default Python prefix. Depending on your setup, you may want to change this to something like virtual env 3.3, Python 3 minus m virtual env. We probably want something like that. Let's copy this. Yeah, this is an old package. We would probably want something like virtual env settings user. Plunk that in. Those aren't the defaults. Let's say we do that, because that's what I did. Directory path, search for virtual environments. Oh, so it wants to store them in a particular location? That doesn't seem cool. Let's comment those ones out for the time being. So I believe that README says set your build system to Python plus virtual env. So we would go open to tools, build system, Python plus virtual env. Let's take a look at that. It's going to run Python minus u, but it has a custom target. Okay. That's weird. Let's take a look at really? Oh. It captures that once, doesn't it? Oh, it didn't load. I see. Maybe if we quit and restart, things will magically start working. Load better that time? Nope. Virtual env commands.py line 126. This is probably a faulty assumption. Module object has no... Yeah, where does this come from? Import default as Sublime default. Oh, sorry. Well, it seems to work here. I find anything that decides where it's going to put my files for me for something like that, I would find that very irritating. I mean, I guess you could set it to home local source or something, but I don't like magic directories. Plus, yeah, why would you, if the virtual environment is going to contain your whole runtime, right? Like all the libraries and your code and everything, I assume. I guess your code doesn't have to be in there. I guess it's just a specifically installed version of Python, and you could use it to run any old Python code you want. So I can sort of see that. However, this package is clearly not the bee's knees because it blowed up real good. I guess I did do that in the wrong host. So there's that. And then sublime default.exec.exec command. From default.exec import exec command. Huh, that's interesting. The virtual environment should be within your project folder. All right. Well, if that's the, like I said, all of the Python that I do, 99.999% of it, Sublime Text plugins like this. Very rarely write Python scripts. Not for any particular reason. It's just that I haven't really needed to script anything since I started using Python a few years ago. Interesting that that import does not work. Because it seems like it probably should. Some magic going on behind the scenes. From default.exec import exec command. Make this just exec command and get rid of this. Save that. File loads. Well. All right. Well, I mean, that made that work. So this got that going on. Virtual env activate. Let's see what happens. Oh, it could only do stuff with virtual environments in a specific location, despite the fact that this clearly said execute code with the virtual environment without editing your paths, virtual env search, find virtual environments in the open folders or anywhere in your system. Well, this is an open folder. No option in the context menu. It's got that going for it. How about temp bob my venv? No, that fiddled with the settings, huh? Well, that still didn't really do a whole lot of anything. It still insists on having that in there. Does that do anything? Seemingly not. Nope, that totally just executed Python. The thing we were actively going to be looking up, though, was probably something that's listed in here, right? The actual build system, Python, virtual env exec. Is that in here? One of those, huh? Oops. You. Despite the fact that what it says, if a virtual env is active and valid, update the build parameters as needed and call the built-in command. If there's no virtual env, do nothing and call the built-in command. If the active virtual env is invalid or corrupt, display an error message and cancel execution. What would be the workflow for something like this is, I guess, the question. You try to run this Python file. I mean, this seems to have a bunch of virtual environments for you to choose from, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me given what you said about normally you would keep your the virtual environment inside of your project. Why would it go looking in some folder somewhere for the virtual environment to use? Surely it would look inside of the thing that it's actively running inside of right now, which would mean that it needs to detect that this folder is in fact a virtual environment. Oh, Salomon may have an answer for us here. I would like the normal how you would work with something like this if you were doing, like, say, multiple Python projects, each with their own virtual environment. While you're saying that, my understanding of it is that you would activate an environment while you're working on it in that particular project, and then activate a different one for another project and the like, I would think. But that is definitely not I also don't understand what the difference is between new and new virtual environment. That seems a little weird. Oh, what did that display? Just that build finished with 1 errors. Yeah. Environment colon. Exact. Yeah. See, that's what I thought. So that's where it all falls down, isn't it? So let's say that this was a project where I had stuff in here. What would be the expected workflow for me Let's assume that I don't have this package installed. As a matter of fact, let's delete that override. We could put that back again if we wanted to, but we'll just get rid of that and that for the time being. I'm going to say that's less interesting. Do you do your builds from inside of Sublime, Ashwin, or do you do them another way? And I'm situating the idea that you could search to see if the current folder is a virtual environment by seeing if there's a bin activate inside of it. And if there is, you could execute it. Right? Indeed, yeah. So that's sort of what I would do too. But what if you were doing it from an IDE, I guess? Not that Sublime is an IDE, but all else being equal, if it was me, I would probably do what I was doing here and just run stuff from inside there. Oh, go away, man. Let us very quickly, hang on one moment. I gotta switch my monitor input and maybe exit this temporarily because it is making me crazy. Go back to here. Oh, is there an... That's interesting. Is there a canonical standard way to do something like that? I've always just sourced that. Is there sometimes a .virtual and file? What would such a file contain? Is the interesting question here. This is a fun experiment. Precisely that, Ashwin, and that's why we had that little bit of a disagreement in the stream the other day with Strager, because his supposition is if someone's learning how to code, then they should use the IDE and not worry about that stuff until they need to worry about that stuff. But I find that if you do that sort of thing, you very quickly get outpaced. So what it would... Oh, man. This makes for some extra tricky business. If you were doing this in a shell, then running this... would tweak the might need to unset that too. It adjusts the environment slightly, and then everything you do from that shell from then on would do the thing. But if you were to do something like this, then you would either do the thing where the project is loaded and you scan to see if there is a virtual environment, and if there is, activate it. If not, allow the user to choose and say there's a virtual environment here, or you go to look to find a virtual environment. Now the question becomes, since the build wants to execute a shell, I gather that this means that whatever the activation script does, they should indeed, yeah, I agree with that. And that's why, I mean, when it comes to Java stuff, that's where I like to lean on an IDE, because I'm aware of the underpinnings of the stuff, but it's just a gigantic pain in the noggin to set up all of the class paths for stuff. It's a lot easier to just right click on a jar file and say, yeah, add this to the path and let it do it. If I had to do it, I could do it. I'm just sort of lazy. So it's not quite a handicap, but I see where people are coming from for that sort of thing. but yet you have to be able to know how to use your tools. Otherwise, you're screwed when those tools aren't there, like we mentioned the other day, right? People at work telling me that I shouldn't be teaching people how to use Git from the command line. They should just use the stuff that's available in the sidebar and in Visual Studio Code. And that's really great until they end themselves up on a server where they have to use VI and command line Git to do something, and they are so completely out of their element that their heads explode, and somebody else has to be called in, and the whole project grinds to a halt. You should always know how your tools work. If we wanted to make this activate a thing, we would need to know what environment to set. We would need to store those changes, and our build would have to always set it, which is unfortunate. You could do that with env, couldn't you? You totes could do that with env. Is this variable used by anything? When it comes to Git, I do like and prefer Sublime Merge because, hey, but the thing I like about it is it just executes actual Git commands and doesn't hide things from you. And also, I really dislike the tree visualization. If I have to do stuff from the command line, I can. And when it comes to Git, I'm staunchly of the opinion that Git is something that you need to know how to work from the command line. And it also, I think, this is just me, let's see if you agree, behooves you, unlike other version control systems like Subversion, where you more or less just need to know semantically, I've committed some code, I'm checking out some code, and you don't need to worry about the black box that is how the repository actually functions. In Git, I think it's a good idea, possibly even imperative, to have an inkling at least about the underpinnings of what Git is doing for you behind the scenes, because so many Git commands require you to know things like a ref spec and the like. So you either need to know it or you end up knowing it. Yeah, I enjoy that as well, particularly for projects at work, because in those it's a mono repo and there's approximately 500 branches, and being able to see when you're doing a complicated merge between multiple branches exactly how things are, I find vital. You don't necessarily need merge for that. Git Kraken is probably good for that as well. I used SmartGit was my go-to Git client for when I needed to visualize something and I didn't, and it would be easier and nicer to do it that way versus doing something in Terminal. But I stopped using it when Merge came out. When I got to be part of the closed private beta before it was even publicly announced. That day that happened was like the last time that I used SmartGit. Nevertheless, unset irrelevant variables. We would need to do something with the path. We would need to unset Python home. If you use Sublime Merge, have you ever used it to undertake a command so that you could look and see what it was, the Git command was that actually was executed to learn a little bit more about what's happening behind the scenes? Because I find that it's like a fun thing at times too. All right, so let's say essentially we need to set the path to include the virtual environments bin on the front. Right? Yeah, doesn't it though? I love a good rabbit hole. Stops you from getting anything done, but as a person that's continuously wanting to learn new things, rabbit holes are awesome, which is kind of where we are right now. all things being equal. To answer this person's question, you know what irritates me about Git in Windows is it always wants to open a web page when you use Git help. It doesn't just show you the command help. That makes me unhappy all the time because it brings my browser to the front and then I can see all of the stuff that I probably should also be working on while I'm noodling around inside of Git doing something fun. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Let's create a new, let's say Python build and copy, new build, paste, save, Python plus virtual env, like so. That is this. And if this was the build system that was being used, let's just verify this. Yep. We do that. We open yon file. We attempt to run, and it's running in 3.8.3. Okay, but that's because it's doing this. So we want both of those to say, no, wrong one, pardon me. Teehee, you go away too. You and you. If that was the case, then we run this, and it's running in the wrong version of Python. Yeah, we're sort of gonna work this. I'm not sure that we want to come up with a whole package for this yet. We're just sort of in the planning stages, but the path should be. We're gonna hard code this. Temp bob my vm bin colon $path. And if that was the case, you'd think that would do something, but you would be wrong. If that was actively the path. Oh, pardon me. We got to do this. Let's get rid of the Windows specific thing, and let's get rid of the variant because that's just going to make us unhappy while we're testing stuff. But theoretically it looks like this. Still no go. Oh, No, it's not going to modify it in that. That would be totally fine. That would be totes fine. Well, that is definitely at the head of the path. Nice try, Mr. Red. Nice try. We don't got snowdrops. Not yet. Maybe that should be the November project. Trying to create a YouTube bot by streaming it on Twitch. Yeah. That crosses the streams nicely, doesn't it? If this was actively using that Python right there, then this should be, based on the fact that it has in fact adjusted the path, which we could verify. If I do that and run this, the very first item is yarn bin. So it's definitely updating the path. Oh, maybe if I spelled it correctly, huh? How about that? How about that? There we go. So What else would need to be set here is the question. That's not set to anything for me. That activate script seemed to want to do something with it. What does it actively do? Or did I spell that wrong? Is it just Python home as one word? Boy, that's hard to read. Let's fix it. There. Nice. Python home. Is Python home technically needed for anything? Unset Python home if set. This will fail if Python home is set to the empty string, which is bad anyway. Could use if set -u Python name and bash. So this looks like activating a virtual environment doesn't want a Python home. And we maybe spell it correctly. Still not set to anything. The question, of course, then being if it's possible to unset something. I don't think it is. In a nice way. Let's do a search. Where to look for stuff if it don't already exist. For most installations, you should not set these variables since they're not needed for Python to run. All right. We just assume that you're not supposed to set it to an empty string, but no one's going to use it anyway, so maybe we don't care. I'm going to do this. And we're going to swap that back to something like that. Here's what we're going to do. Save this as Python vn test. And then we can say from default.exec import exec command. Exec command run we want a little something like yaw. And then over here we say target is virtual env exec. And for cancel, we do kill true. Otherwise, this build is exactly the same as anything else. We'll comment out that because that's the thing we're going to try to cram in to this operation if it doesn't already exist. That's where things tend to get to the level of unhappy. I'm going to move that over to there because we don't care about it for the time being. I'll just go hide that like so. We don't need to see that. That's just gonna be there. It's gonna do the thing in the place with the stuff, and build currently works. Okay, so if the build is being executed inside of a window whose top level folder contains a virtual environment, augment the path environment variable in the build to include the appropriate bin directory in the path. In all other regards, this behaves exactly the same as exec would. Yeah. In order to use this, you probably want to make sure that you're using shell command. So we could actively sort of make our lives a little bit nicer in that regard. Notice that this is very similar to what the other thing was kind of doing as well. Let's do this as a test. Python -u $file. That's what would have been in here. This is the version that we put here. That should still work just fine, except we want to say it's probably self.window.status message. So I do that smartly. Down there it says virtualenv does not support command. And did anything get executed? No, it didn't. But if we swap these two lines around, whoops, I meant to do that, then it works. So we adjust the path environment variable because adjusting the actual environment is spoopy and prone to destruction. So we don't support CMD in builds. Theoretically, we could try to turn a command into a shell command. Worry about that later, such as it is. Let it roll. So what we now want is something that can detect if something like this. Get vn binder for a particular window. So this would be something like given a window, check to see if there is a virtual environment present, and if so, return back the absolute path to the bin directory within that environment. Returns none if there is no virtual environment detected. So here's the bit where we say binder is equal to get vn binder and pass it self.window, and then if we don't need to do that, binder is not none. Do some stuff. Env is equal to k-args dot get env and such. Path is equal to env dot get would have to be named after the environment variable, right? Which is all uppercasey. And if there isn't a path, it's just an empty string. And then we can say env path is equal to binder one of those, because theoretically this works either way, or at least let's make sure that it does, you know. No longer need that. os dot path sep and the old path, which is path. I guess we probably want, yeah, well, something like so. Oh. Uh-oh. Did I forget how format strings work? I don't use $signs, right? Am I all I'm all JavaScripted in the brain right now? Still no? Wait, this is in my home directory, right? Yeah, it totally is. Totes is. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Having a bit of a brain fart moment here. Ba-da-ba-ba. Begins with an F. Yeah. This isn't JavaScript. This is Python. Oh, right. I gotcha. Thus. There we go. Thank you. See, JavaScript has ruined my brain. I did that. Very JavaScripty. Thank you. I was just seeing like, yeah, it starts with an F. That's what I thought. It's supposed to start with an F. Okay, so here's the theory. We'll comment up what this is doing. Check to see if there's a virtual environment in this window. If so, use it to execute this build. Thus, already we can tell that this isn't going to be a satisfactory solution because you could have multiple folders open. I knew what you meant. As soon as it was the hint I needed that JavaScript is the thing that uses backticks and Python doesn't. Despite the fact that I remembered that it should have an F in front of it, for some reason my brain persisted in thinking it still needed to be backticked. Also, that whole embarrassing $sign operation, unless $signs are actively still needed here, in which case we're, unhappy. But ask the window if there's a virtual environment. If there is, get the environment key out of the keyword arguments, putting in an empty one if there isn't one. Get the path out of the environment, getting an empty string if there is one. The environment's path is the bin directory we found, an operating system specific path separator, and the old path if any, and the keyword arguments environment key should be the newly tweaked env. Not strictly needed, right? If this is the I'm going to have to do that because if it was a default, then it's going to be this, and we have to make sure that it's put in there. So I'm going to say we absolutely need to do that, or we make the code more complicated, or someone could tell me that I'm being dumb about that too, because it would not be surprising. So that works. This is running that. If we hard code that this returns temp bob my VM bin, then oh, we broke the we broke the path. Hmm. Maybe we want that. Yeah. That probably makes more sense. Whoops. Ah, son of a bitch. What was that set to before? I hate when that happens. Nope, don't do that. It was 13. Yeah, I thought so. There we go. The path string should be definitely starting with the binary directory that we found, then an OS specific path separator, then whatever the value of the path string happens to be. And if the path string doesn't exist, then we use $path. If the path string does exist, then the user hopefully included a $path in it, because if not, they're going to break the build, and we're going to keep that build broken, because maybe someone wants to completely make sure that environment variable doesn't get set. But all this really needs is the ability for get VM binder to know something about something. All right, let's do this. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that yet, but oh, something happening. Oh, just puppies and kitties. Okay. Cool. All right. Need to just double check message that was going on in the background. Hello, Mohammed. Yes, I am using Slackware Linux 14.2/current. Although I think there's going to be a Slackware 15 coming soon, so I may need to update, and I'm going to be sad when that's the case. Boy, am I ever going to be sad when that's the case. I hate doing that kind of upgrade because everything changes. You got to remember how to set stuff up. Ugh. Window.get project data. Nope. Thus. Hey, thank you, Mohammed. Glad to be able to help. I'm kind of torn. The videos that are coming up in December, I have some work already done for a few package video. Well, I say a few, 2 package videos. I just need to record some more stuff. But what with December being Devember, I kind of want to go more towards a plugin / coding sort of thing. I'm not sure where to go with that, but I guess I got a week to find out if I want to screw up my schedule. I have done that in the past, though. What I'm going to do is ask the window for its project data. And if it doesn't have one, we get that. So that's the magic of window.project data, or that is returning the actual project data, but in any window where there was an anonymous project, it would just be an empty thing, like so. Cool. Folders, and if folders doesn't exist, get an array of items, and then for folder in folders, and we run the build. It can be on anything realistically. We just need to know that it found the thing. What's the name of it again? Folder.path. Here's something that I'm not 100% sure about. So let's double check. Whoops. Go to here. As we can see, there are 3 paths. Both of these are absolute for reasons that, they look into the packages directory. This one is relative to wherever the package file is stored. If I was to ask this window, its path is indeed dot. So that's sort of an unfortunate turn of events. Because we need something that will make sure that we can get the absolute path based on the current project. So do I don't have help actually open here, do I? The name of the currently open project file, if any. And I think that is what we want for this. It's as good as it's going to get. Oh, I guess we could ask the window for the list of currently open folders. Maybe that's a smarter way to do this, then we don't even need to fiddle around. That's even better. All right. I forgot about that one. So we don't need you anymore. That's good. So now, when we run the build, perfect. What's the succinct way of doing something like this? We need to let's say that the binary directory is folder /bin. And then we can say os.path.isdir binder return binder. What was the other magic here? If there's a .virtual env thing. How to detect if a folder contains a Python virtual environment. Let's see. Is it possible to determine if the current script is running inside of a virtual environment? Out of curiosity, why would you want to know that? Good thing about Sublime Text is that it's fast, because if I would open to folders in VS Code, its performance would not be that good. But in Sublime, the performance rate is constant. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? You can actively slow it down if you have enough files in the catalog, but it takes a lot of files. I've been having to use VS Code at work a bit to write some documentation for people, and it just seems to react slower. I don't know how much of that is my bias and how much of that is reality, but everything you do in the user interface seems like there's a little bit of lag to it. It's probably bias on my part, but the speed of Sublime and its configurability are the two things that I love about it. I mean, I know Visual Studio Code is also configurable, but no, I'm not as much of a fan of JavaScript as I am of Python. The most reliable way to check for this is to check whether sys prefix is equal to sys base prefix. Oh, wait, that's telling me how to tell from inside of the running script. And that won't actively work according to that. This answer returns false negatives for common use cases. Authoritative update correctly detecting all non-Anaconda VMs. Wow, this is some tricky business. Yeah, I don't want to know if my Python is running in a virtual environment. I want to know if a folder contains a virtual environment. So that didn't necessarily assist in this particular situation. Simplistically, this Python file, the top level folder contains a bin directory, so it should, in theory, do a thing, but apparently not. Let's see. Sorry, let's do that. Oh, whoop. Stop doing that. This is not JavaScript. All right. Yeah, I saw that mentioned in the Discord, and a couple of people messaged it to me as well and said, "Look, Sublime has competition. There's a new IDE to compete with Sublime." And I wanted to say Sublime's not an IDE, so technically it's not an IDE competing with Sublime in the way that you think that it is. I said it was written in Kotlin and Rust. Kotlin still requires a JVM, right? I like the idea of JetBrains doing something lightweight, but I still feel the sting of that licensing change they made a few years ago that was complete and total butts. And how they had bugs in things and they prioritized adding new features over fixing existing bugs. Well, I'm sure I only know that people have been talking about it. I haven't looked into it myself. I'm not really interested in moving away from Sublime. I don't use IDEs in the traditional sense. I consider Sublime more of a high-powered, customizable text editor than an IDE. So in that regard, I don't know that I'm necessarily in the fleet of people that would be interested in Fleet, but I'd probably pull it down just to play with it a bit. But the thing that, I mean, these days, the thing that puts me off about Java is having to have a JVM installed, or having all applications that require one bundling one, and then they're like 60 megs when they don't need to be, which is really first world problemy, but native applications are kind of nicer in that regard. At least with an Electron, it is sort of large because it has a whole browser, but it still works, right? I would say that I'm definitely not going to be interested in Fleet until its plugin architecture happens. Trace, you got to join a waiting list to be able to get access to the beta. I will say that JetBrains did some good work in the past. I used IntelliJ and a few of their other tools for a while before I eventually got fed up with stuff and ditched them for Sublime. And I've used Sublime for longer than I've used those, and I have yet to encounter a problem that puts me off. So that's, nice for what it is. We need to do one more thing here in our little test. Do that and subl minus a, not a venv, like so. Whoop. Try opening a really big file. Yeah, I know, right? And we do that a lot at work. Our data files are huge. Yeah, it would at this point something would have to be an absolutely mind-blowing tool or provide some very real substantial performance or usability benefits for me to want to switch off of an existing tool. So in that regard, I guess I could say jury's out because I haven't played with it, and I guess I haven't put my name on a waiting list, so it might be a while before I could actively play with it. But it would have to be like really damn good for me to be like, maybe I'll just ditch my YouTube channel and use a different thing now. That's not to say that, right tool for the job. There's maybe something that it would be, handy for. Maybe it's not as fast as Sublime, but it's faster than Visual Studio Code and could take over some of the stuff that Visual Studio Code users use. That would give Microsoft a run for their money, wouldn't it? I do have a Discord server, and this might even be it. Oh, yeah. There was totally a link just a little bit up. If you look up a couple of chats, Nightbot just said it. That command may eventually do something. I can't remember if I've set it up. The bot in YouTube takes a while to respond to things. There we go. Click that link, join the Discord, come say hello. Oh, that's not the thing that I thought it was. Pardon me. I thought I was in this tab and not that tab. That's silly. There we go. Let us say that this file is venv file, and this one is Norman. If I run this one, it should be in the virtual environment. If I run this one, it should not. But it still is. So, cool. Welcome. The last thing I think we need here for our simplistic example is this is looking through all of the folders. What we want to know is if yeah. If not file name, And that's pretty obvious. I think what we want is to find the folder that the file is currently rooted inside of. What is the best way to do something like that? Yeah, that right there. This is the prime reason why I got off of the JetBrains tool wagon back when I started using Sublime, because there were a lot of small little, let's call them quality of life bugs in the way that I was using it. And apparently I was the only one. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the issue tracker for JetBrains at the time, everything I'm about to say now is prefaced on the fact that I haven't used JetBrains in a few years, so things may have changed. Okay, but the issue tracker allows you to like star a bug if it was something or a feature request or the like, and the more stars the thing got, the more it got prioritized for things to handle. And I had weird bugs like automatically word wrapping would word wrap very wrong. It would go back to the last comma and split the line there, even if that was nowhere near the boundary. For example, that existed for a long time. It actively made me slower because I had to keep rejoining lines. But apparently, I'm the only one writing comments, so nobody never really floated to the top. And there was a lot of that going on. The bugs, the things that were stopping me, slowing me down, making me work slower, slowly getting on my nerves over time, never got prioritized to a level where they were fixed, even after 2 or 3 years. But in the meantime, features, new stuff just kept rolling in with every update. And then they switched their licensing scheme so that instead of purchasing version 11, you purchased the subscription and got all of version 11. And they said the reason they did that was because they wanted a more secure revenue stream. Paraphrasing here, because if people only pay once when a new version comes out, then they need to make sure that they constantly put something enough in there to make people want to purchase it. Otherwise, they won't get an upgrade. And if they don't get an upgrade, the company loses money, everything goes downhill. So they need to keep a revenue stream. And for that reason, they would prioritize putting in new features to drive new customers. But they said that going to this subscription model instead, that would allow them to focus on bugs and features alike, because now the income would be more stable. And I let that ride for a year and a bit, and still nothing got better. And that's when I decided to uh, jump ship, if you will. Now, maybe that has changed in the interim. I would hope so. I like the idea of prioritizing bugs, but it can't be the be all and end all, because even a minor bug experienced by a few people can be an extreme turnoff. And just because, it's not, there's more people that want magic feature than want code wrapping to work properly, you know, doesn't mean that that's not something that's worthy of fixing. Go on basis of effort as well. Mm. How to check if a path is absolute or relative? No. What I want to do is take two absolute paths and determine if the one is contained inside the other. We could do common prefix for that, I suppose. I don't know if that's the best way to do that. Yeah, I used Sublime Text in free mode for a good amount of time while I was in school, but I can gladly pay for good software now. I hate subscriptions. You subscribe to a service, not to a software. I feel you on that. I don't like. I would subscribe to a magazine. You need to, after you join, it'll drop you in the rules section. You need to click the green check mark that says, in order to gain access to the Discord server, click the check mark below to indicate that you have read the rules and agree to follow them. And once you do that, you should be good to go. Before then, I think you're not. You should. You probably will only see the rules channel and nothing else. It's been a while. Regarding subscriptions, yeah, anything where if you stop paying, you lose all access. Not interested. For software, anyway. Something that is a recurring payment so that you keep getting updates, but if you decide you don't want to pay, then you just stop where you are until you start paying, and then you jump ahead. Some people call that a subscription. That's kind of what the license mechanism for Sublime Text 4 is now, but it's not a subscription because you always have access to, right up until the point where your license expired after 3 years, you have access to that version and every version that came before it in perpetuity forever. No one can ever take that away from you. The thing that JetBrains did was they first started saying, if you stop paying for the subscription, you lose all access. And the internet ripped them, new body orify. So then they swapped it to, okay, you can, purchasing it will get you a persistent license, but it's a persistent license to the version that existed at the start of the subscription period and not at the end, which I thought was stupid. So if it was version 11 on December 1st and I paid for a year, when the next December 1st comes around, it's 11.6.5, and I decide, I'm good where I am. You're back on 11. You want to have all those sweet bug fixes you spent the last year using in your day-to-day life? Make with the money. That bit right there that really rubbed me the wrong way, because you either give no access or full access. And if it's no access, I'm not interested in it. If it's what the version was a year ago when I gave you money, well, I've just spent a year writing code, relying on features that were being updated along the way. And now at the end of the year, I'm back to the start. If I was relying on any of those new things, well, I'm screwed now. I mean, I had the right to use them, but now I don't. That seems very wrong to me, personally. Everybody has their own rights to decide for these things. Never let it be said that I'm saying that because I think a thing is bad, that everybody should think it's bad. Not at all. Is there a contains? But that was the other thing that really made me angry about that whole situation. And then I decided I did not want to be party to that anymore. As they say, vote with your wallet, right? So I swapped to using Sublime instead and saved myself ridiculous amounts of money because I bought my license in 2016 before Sublime Text 3 was actually even officially released. It was in beta for a good long time before it officially released, and I had access to it for all of that time. I only had to pay money again when Sublime Text 4 came out. So for that $80 US, I more than got my money's worth out of stuff. And like I mentioned one time to John, the author, in the Sublime Text Discord, the amount of fun and enjoyment that I've had in the last 5-6 years, however long it's been, just being a part of the Sublime community, helping people on the forum, helping people in the Discord, helping people here on YouTube, just that, the satisfaction of knowing that I'm helping you guys, that was worth the cost of admission right there. And the fact that it's a tool that I use for literally all of my text editing is like a bonus, Yeah, WebStorm I think was the last tool of theirs that I was using. The thing that actually made me jump to Sublime was I was doing something in WebStorm with TypeScript, and it was telling me my code was broken when it was coming directly out of the language handbook, and I went looking to find something else to replace it and ran into Sublime. And as I have said many a time, I utilized the downloaded version for not more than a couple of hours before I gave them money, before I was even sure if I was going to keep using it, because the level of care that went into and still goes into Sublime in creating something that will work across Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, and is very forgiving of having older libraries and such, just really, really impressed me. Hmm. To the task at hand. Was there something in Sublime 3 where users that got Sublime 4 license didn't have to pay for it? Because I bought the Sublime 3 license and upgraded to 4 but didn't get charged. Yes. I don't remember exactly when the date was off the top of my head. Sometime maybe September 2018, 2019. I can't remember. Um, the license terms originally for Sublime Text, Sublime Text X, Sublime Text 2, and Sublime Text 3 were you buy a license for whatever the price was, let's say $80 US, and you get for that $80 every major version of that. So if you bought three so if you bought your license for Sublime Text 3, you would get 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and all the point releases and everything. But when the version number jumped to 4, then you would have to purchase again. But they changed the licensing scheme for Sublime Text 3 to match how it works for Sublime Merge, which is when you buy a license, starting from the day that you buy it, you get every update for 3 years out from that point. And at 3 years plus a day, you're basically you can use any version that is available from that day backwards, but you can't get new updates without paying again. And they modified the license agreement for Sublime Text 3 in advance of Sublime Text 4 to work the exact same way. So this is basically a roundabout way of saying if you bought your Sublime Text 3 license recently enough, then you're still within the 3 years of updates and you can continue to use Sublime Text 4 using that same license. The only time you would have had to pay for Sublime Text 4, the situation where you see a license update required in the title bar, is if your Sublime Text 3 license was more than 3 years old, basically. Basically, it's just a static image of a Sublime Text window that I put the image inside of. It's not actually live inside of there. We might even have the ability to do something like that. We might be able to say view.settings.set. You usually do something like this. But that's not the right name for the file. I might not have it locally installed here. Let's see. Compare as we dare. Oh, it's a hidden color scheme. Pardonnez-moi. I bet you we probably... Is there a syntax? There is, isn't there? Maybe we say sets in green. Nope. This is a digression, but now I'm curious. Because people do tend to ask this. Oh, why? It's right here, man. You can even see exactly what it says there, right? Oh, pardon me. I did that stupid. You do this. Don't need that part. This is just getting embarrassing at this point. So we have something like this. Then I do this so that this is green. And then I say view.setScratch true and oops, view.setName Odette Nerd webcam like this. Grab this out into its own window like so. Capture a screenshot and make the green be transparent and overlay my my camera into it. That was way more fraught than it needs to be. This is how infrequently I pull that particular trick. And I made a syntax here because it allows it to turn off the gutter and all of that stuff on the side. Now, I have the exact same thing that I've done on Windows as well. And I believe I probably did something like this. To remove the line stuff if there was a status bar in here, but there's not because I probably just did toggle status bar and turned it off, and I probably did toggle menu as well, and then we end up something similar to that. This is the magic for how this works for this particular thing. Tricky beans, such as it is. Similarly, the chat that's above is just an empty window. In that case, constructed the same way. We set the name to live chat and set the thing to be Scratch, like so. And then similarly, turn off the status bar in the menu, size it to a certain size, and then just overlay the chat on top of it. And you can't tell. Clearly, we probably did something like this too. That's not the setting. That's the setting. On that, I don't know that I can describe it better than I just did, except that I could probably manage to do it without looking like a complete and total boob for a bunch of times. If I did something like that and did a build, what would happen? Oh, it would get real angry with me. Clearly, I didn't pay enough attention to that. Return the longest path prefix taken character by character that is a prefix of all paths in list. If list is empty, return the empty string. Note this may return invalid paths because it works a character at a time. Oh, okay. So I just sort of did that more or less entirely wrong because those probably should look something like that. Huh? And the answer was that. Oh, actually, I guess I can't do that part for the time being. We'll comment that part out so we can actively see this. Clear the console, run that file. Oh, that doesn't need to be there, guy. That's just going to be unhappy. And we ended up with Is this in any way helpful to the current situation? I'm not entirely sure that it is. Let's tweak that a little bit. We'll comment out all of that. Not that I'm aware of, with the sole exception of it's technically possible for a theme to slow things down. The old material theme for Sublime Text 3 did something where it was tweaking the value of a setting for every frame that gets displayed. That sucked memory down. But apart from that, it's not an issue. So I wouldn't worry about it realistically. As long as you're using a recent theme, you're probably fine. The only theme that comes to mind that did that is the material theme. I don't think anyone has reported that. I think Guna maybe no. That one replaces that folders text up here with the clock, but it does it on like a minute by minute basis. But yeah, that it was quite the hullabaloo when it was discovered that that was totally an issue. Okay, clear the console. Boop. Why are we still getting, oh, that's the top of the console. Okay, so in this case, this file is in the virtual environment, so it hit the my venv. This one is down here. It should flip state. So yeah, in that case, it wasn't temp bob, but it was temp bob, not a VM. So naively, at least, this will do what we want. Yeah. Oh, if you're talking about Mariana, the color scheme that we have here, color schemes don't slow stuff down. Application themes do. Themes are things that change the shape of tabs and the look of the window as a whole, like the material theme. That would be, like changing the shape of the tabs to be rounded or squared or angled and the like. That's what a theme does. Colors, the way the colors that you see while you're editing text is a color scheme. Those can't, technically, they could slow down Sublime if they were ridiculous, but that's not a worry either. And that's just because the list of rules is unbounded. So let's see. If prefix is equal to folder, then do this. Let's say what we're doing here. Scan all folders. Is one of them the folder that contains this file? If so, look to see if it has a virtual environment in it. Hello, HuffMap. Indeed, I am taking Sublime questions. If you have a question, I might have an answer. Also, welcome. In the meantime, we're just sort of playing around with a question that somebody asked in the Sublime Text forum. That is the case, yes, Mohammed. The developers discovered Thank you. The Sublime Text, thanks you, Christopher. The devs discovered that you can waste upwards of a watt of juice over a period of time, um, just blinking the cursor if nothing else is changing. So by default, it doesn't blink. But if you want it to blink, there is a setting for it. The same setting that appeared in Sublime Text 3, the default just changed. The weird extra window. What version, what build are you running? Because there have been some issues related to that, but I think that should be fixed now. Although I don't know if that is released. If you have a license, you could try the latest dev build to see if that fixes it. Unless you're already doing that. But I know that I've seen... Hello, Dev. 4121. Well, let's see. I know that I've seen that being an issue. Sublime -N will reuse an empty window if the application isn't running. Fix close windows when empty setting not working. Either one of those, specifically the Mac specific items here, may be. Yeah, I've never experienced it, but I have heard people talking about it, and my recollection is that it should be fixed now, but it might only be fixed in 4122, which is a dev build, and I think 4121 would be a stable build, if I had to guess. Let's see. We go like that, and then we go like that, and then we go like that. Yeah, 4121 is the stable build. It might be fixed only in the current dev build. Yeah, let's see. Maybe we'll find a thing here. We do this. Yeah, I liked was setting the cursor to not blink already for creating videos because it's easier to splice together segments of screen recordings if the cursor's not blinking. That very first video on the channel on scopes and scope selectors murdered my brain with editing clips. Yeah. Let's see. I'm not even sure. Something similar to this, perhaps. The new window command opens. Oh, that's a duplicate. Hang on. Opens two windows, one with some file and one with a new untitled document. I know that it was worded more like what it was that you were discussing there. I monitor the issue repo. I get emails whenever anybody talks in here, but that's as far as I follow it. What's this one? Are you using Sublime -N by any chance? Because that might be... Oh, I see. He was just mentioning that it's a duplicate of another thing. Yeah. Definitely a thing to try anyway. My Mac has an older version of Mac OS on it, so it's harder to verify stuff. Try this. Yeah, that's not going to be likely to be interesting, is it? I'm terrible at searching issues. I would try that. And you're on a Mac. You can temporarily run it, and then like you don't necessarily have to put it in the application folder just to give it a try. You'll have to enter your license in order to do something with it. I'm not sure when the next stable build is scheduled to release. Sometimes some of the devs of Sublime visit in the stream, but unfortunately tonight is not one of those nights. So it's hard to say. But yeah, my recollection is that there's a fix for that is in place, but it's just not in a stable build yet. And I can't remember what it is now. I'm pretty sure Ben said something about what they. Yeah, you could try running it just temporarily, just to see if that is the deal. If you're worried about stability, I'm running that particular version, and I've been running it since it came out, which was November 3rd, is when this dev build came out, and I have had 0 crashes or problems with it, and I use Sublime for all of my text editing, unless I'm on a server and then I have to use Vim. But yeah, give that a try and see. And so you don't necessarily have to replace your stable version. You can download this and just sort of like run it from download, I think. And I would imagine would work. See if it has the same problem. But I think it was related to various Windows stuff that was happening there. Yeah. I always use the latest release, whether it's stable or development, have been doing for 5 years, and the number of times that there's been a crash while running a version is probably 5 or less in 5 years, and in all of those cases, a version that fixed that particular crash problem, whatever it happened to be, was never more than 24 hours out. Normally, more frequently than anything, I would go to bed and wake up the next morning and find that there had been a dev build that was released and a bug was found in it that caused a crash or some other problem, not necessarily a crash, and then a new one was released to fix it before I even woke up. It's kind of nice being on the wrong time zone for something like that. Okay, so this one should run in theory. Oh, that's how we're doing that. In 3.8, because it checked and determined that it needed to set it. This one should not, because it's not in a virtual environment. And it's not. So, simplistically speaking, this is as small of a plugin as is required to make this work. It's not too shabby. That's 60 lines, and a fair amount of that is comments explaining what's actively happening. So it would require you to use shell command to run whatever it is you're going to run, which I'm gathering would always be Python if you were doing something with a virtual environment. It will put stuff into the path for you. That's not too shabby. I wonder if this might be a candidate for going into the scraps repository. We might be able to work on a thing like that. What we probably want to do is oops, something like that. Well, that was silly. Oh, right. They're not expanded in single quotes, fool. That path starts with yarn bin. The virtual environment file starts in with the path in my venv. This one's yarn bin. This one's yarn bin. This one's this. And if this env had a path that looked like this, then we should see our path, then this. So we should see, let's do this. Slash does not exist as an adjustment to the path. So here we see our environment, then does not exist, then everything else. In the normal file, we just see does not exist and everything else. And the same there. Yeah, that totally works. We don't even need that. Hello, Ben. We're getting close to actually exiting the scene. How you doing this morning, evening, day? We were just hacking up a little sample Sublime custom build target that can detect if the file that you're executing is contained inside of a folder that has a virtual environment for Python in it, and if so, it would adjust the path. Getting stuff done. Hey, that's more than I did today. Oh man, I'm gonna have a meeting tomorrow. Oh, life is unfortunate. I spent a lot of my day bumping my head against Docker and other related weirdnesses. The module hot reloader for the stuff that we're doing successfully detects that files have been modified and says it's restarting things, but it doesn't actively restart anything, and it's a giant pain in the butt. Well, I like to think so, Mohammed. I like to think so. Or I hope so. Anyway, I guess I should say. I hope people are getting use out of the stuff that I'm doing, and it's answering their questions. That's why a lot of the videos are entitled Common Questions. Some of the first bunch that appeared on the channel, because I saw the same questions being asked a bunch and thought there needs to be some videos that discuss this. Then when someone asks the question, I can just post the link to the video instead of having to type it every time. All right, so we put this back to the way it was. And we are good to go. That probably, looked like that, all else being equal. If you wanted to use virtual environments with Python, then you would choose this. I hate when that happens. Yeah. It's sort of that offshoot when someone asks a question that says, hey, can I do this? And you always want to answer, well, have you tried? Because it seems like that's the answer to your question. Hey, no problem, HuffMap. Now, Ben, there was an issue recently on Mac OS. Hang on, let's go. Gotta scroll back. Shoot, I lost it. Boy, I went way too far back. Way. It was something along the. Oh, there we go. What's up with the weird extra window in Sublime Text 4? Close a window and there's still a window. in build 4021, which is the current stable build. Um, is that related to the bug that was fixed in the latest dev build? Do you think that where subl minus n opens an extra window sometimes? I remember people talking about it. I can't remember what happened. Yeah, that is definitely true. And I would imagine also to be charitable, if you're unfamiliar with the thing, then knowing whether or not you can do a certain thing, it's easier for people that already know the answer to be able to tell how long it would even take. So there is that. But there are some, where we feel like, hey, can I press, can I bind a key to enter to insert two new lines instead of one? And I'm like, I don't know. Can you? Have you tried? It's sort of one of those issues where you maybe have a question that you have, but you're not asking it correctly. Like asking, can I bind enter to insert two new lines instead of one is kind of a roundabout way of saying, hey, how would I bind enter to insert two new lines instead of one? Because if you're unfamiliar with the insert command, then you might not know how to do that. Ooh, larger changes. Exciting. Yeah, I didn't even realize until I looked in the change log that this dev build has been, riding since November 3rd. But it's even the dev builds of Sublime are so stable 99% of the time that I never really know from one point to the other whether I'm on a stable or a dev build because I just always update to whatever the latest build number is and call it good. Let's do this. What did we actually come up here? When using virtual environments, Pavlon and Sublime. Used for the file, the program that you're executing. This sample plugin implements a custom build target that checks to see if the folder that the current contains a virtual environment or not. If so, to ensure that the environment is used. Boy, that is spelled poorly. Yeah, the stable release is 4021, but we're on 4122 right now. So there's a fair few things in there. But it sounds like there might be something even more exciting on the way. As defined here, this only works if the folder that the Python I know, exciting, right? Larger changes, you know what that means. There's going to be a web browser and a terminal built in. Whoop. Yeah, I think that's why we were sort of looking at that, because someone was asking about the issue on Mac OS where there's like a window and you close it and then there's still a window hanging out there, which I think is probably one of those. Uh, that alone probably irritates a bunch of people on Mac OS. Um, uh, and then we go over like so. Worth having the syntax check variant in here. So it's not going to be able to record screencasts is what you're saying. That's okay, we'll wait. Oh, I hate when you do that. Okay, let's say to use this, include a target and cancel key in the build file to point to this plugin command as in the example below. Note that. We'll get rid of all of that business. I gotta fix comment glory because it's being kind of dumb about this stuff. Indeed. For those that are afraid to ride the bleeding edge. Boy howdy. I have 9 lines of JavaScript that for some reason can't talk to the Mongo database because the DB handle is null, even though it observably connects to the database. I don't know what the hell's going on with it, but I do know that it's driving me crazy. Okay. Something like so. This doesn't necessarily answer this person's question, though, because they asked about a shebang. We don't want to use a shebang to use a new build system. I think we discovered you could just sort of set that up, right? But we're not going to do that here. Yeah, we don't need you. Whoops. Pardon me. There we go. I think we're gonna let it ride on that. We have a sample build which we don't actively need anymore. We can move this in, explain some stuff, and I think I have a meeting. We should probably jump out of here because we're about 33 minutes past the time that we would normally be on the stream. So we're gonna call it there. Remember, this will be the last YouTube Sublime Text live stream ever for 2021, and next year they'll pick up. And again, that is because I have decided to take the irrationally crazy notion of doing a live stream of some duration every single day through the entire month of December. Unless I get very sick or my wife needs me to help her with something. Plan on an evening stream, maybe a daytime stream. I'm going to try to hit more days than not. The goal is to hit all 31. I got so close that time that I tried it. Not entirely sure what we're going to be doing, but nevertheless. Don't forget that this coming Friday, giveaway on the Twitch channel. Link down below. Probably. We're going to be giving away some stickers and some t-shirts. I, in fact, need to send some status emails and get back to work on t-shirt design. Fun. Thanks to everybody who jumped into the chat and asked questions. We'll see ya in 2022 or any day in December on Twitch. It's going to be fun. Slightly maddening, but fun. It's going to be awesome. That little thing in the Twitch analytics that says how many days that I've streamed in the last 31 days is going to go mental. It's going to be great. So thanks again for everybody. We'll see you Wednesday, 2 days time on Twitch or in the next video. And until then, this is Odat Nerd asking you to please have a sublime week / month / year.
Have a great one, everyone. See you in the next stream.